Welcome to the Abundance Hack Podcast, where we want to inspire you to push past your blocks, limiting beliefs, and comfort zone to live a confident, happy, and fulfilling life. I am your host, Niajae, influencer, motivational speaker, and boss babe. Every time you hit subscribe or leave a 5-star rating, I do my happy dance. Hey guys, thanks for listening or watching the Abundance Hack Podcast. I am joined by Marie Elizabeth. She is a life coach, and today we are going to be talking about going from bored to glow. So Marie, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell a little bit about your specialty.
Thank you. I work with people who have been working too hard and love what they do and just throw all of themselves into their work, and their relationships have been taking a hit. And so I work with them to recalibrate and actually deeply experience that the love and pleasure and fulfillment they have in their relationships can feed their work and have them shine even brighter in the world. So they don't have to grind as hard from a place of effort, but they're actually giving from the overflow.
I love it. I love it. So before we dive into our topic, I want to ask you, what does abundance mean to you?
Abundance means to me that I'm actually in alignment with the truth of who I am. So it's the universe is abundant. I mean, that's the nature of life. It's the nature of the universe. It's generous. It's abundant. And as human beings, we often cut ourselves off from that for one reason or another. And so when I directly experience abundance, it's because I'm actually in alignment with who I am. And I've remembered myself. It's not a place I have to get to. It's more like the origin deep inside of who I am.
Yes, I love that. So I always talk about peeling the layers back, because at our core, we know who we are. We know what we want, but life piles all this crap on you. And it's about peeling those layers back, removing all of the crap that was piled on top of you and getting back to who you are at your core. I love that.
That's it.
Yes.
Yes. I talk about peeling layers too.
Yeah. So I knew this conversation was going to be awesome. You're a fellow New Yorker. I was born in New York. I was born in the Bronx, and you're in Brooklyn?
Manhattan. I'm in Brooklyn now, but Manhattan, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. So I live in Florida now, but you know, us New Yorkers definitely have that connection.
Yeah, right. It's a certain wavelength.
Yeah. So this came up, Bored to Glow came up because I posted something on Facebook that said a woman glows differently when she's loved properly. So that started a whole thing, and it actually was one of my most shared posts in a while. So it's a really interesting concept, and I think that everyone had a different take on how they perceived it. And some people said, yes, when she loves herself right. Yes, when a man loves her right. Yes, when God loves her right. So everyone had a different perception of what it means. But we are going to dive in because you have a breakdown of glow. So what does this mean to you, Bored to Glow?
So as we were talking yesterday about this, I broke it down like this. So the G in glow stands for gain awareness. So if you're experiencing boredom, it's because you've kind of gone to sleep to the miracle of life that's all around you. At every moment, there's something magical, synchronistic, incredible happening. And if you don't have your attention on that, sure, you might get bored. But if you do have your attention on that, there's no way you could be bored. So the first step to stopping boredom is to actually raise the level of your awareness and your attention to what's already around you. That's amazing, because it is.
Yes, I love that. So this is really important. And I think this goes for anyone that's in a relationship, that's married, that's single. It's really, really important that you find the beauty in everything in life. So I know I have some married friends that have been married for years, and they're kind of at a point of just like, with their husband, like, him again, you know?
Right?
But I
Yeah.
think that it's important that you find new things about your husband, discover I shouldn't just say
Yes.
husband, I should say spouse, because it could
Spouse.
be wife
A
or
wife.
husband. Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Find new things, discover new things with them. If you get to a point of boredom, it's because you're not looking at the beauty that life has to offer. So I love, love, love this. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's where you need to gain some awareness. And,
Mm.
in that case, one of the things to be aware of is that no matter how familiar a person seems or feels, because they take their socks off the same every day and you know, you sleep on the same side of the bed every night, no matter how familiar all of that feels and you think you know the person, there is a vast mystery inside that person that you don't know.
Mhm.
And it's on you to actually invite and call out that mystery. Invite yourself to be surprised because you're curious. So this is again how the G of glow relating to gaining awareness. It's like be aware of places where you've stopped being curious. So instead of like, oh, it's him again, it's like, oh, well, what could I ask him or her uh, that would teach me something new, or that we could have a different response to what we're doing, or maybe go somewhere we've never been before, whatever it is. But the awareness is that your attention is most likely lacking.
Mm.
And so gaining more awareness is like, where could I up my attention so that this situation is interesting again?
Yes. And how can you be more present too? Because I feel like
Yeah.
we're so distracted. We're so distracted with social media, with our phones, with our emails,
Yeah,
with our businesses. When's the last time you were fully present with
exactly.
whether it's your spouse, whether it's your partner, whether it's yourself? Like how much time are you spending with yourself where you're not scrolling on social media? How much time are you spending with yourself where you're just sitting there with your thoughts and maybe your breath and just fully being aware and present in the moment?
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
So that leads really beautifully to the L of glow, which stands for lose the routine.
Mm.
So just like that typical routine, every time you have a minute, you pick up social media and start scrolling, right? That's a routine. So challenge yourself to not do that and just stand in the line, and be with yourself, or just sit in traffic and be with yourself, or just, whenever the moment is that you pull for that social media to distract yourself in a moment of quiet, lose the routine once or twice a day and just do something different.
Mm.
Go get a glass of water, look out the window, just choose something different to shake it up. That's
Yeah.
the second great way you can shift from bored to glow.
I love that. Yesterday you mentioned sleeping on a different side of the bed. I love that. I mean, I'm single, but I love that tip for people that are in relationships because it will shake things up. And, like, I'll let you break it down because you had an explanation of how that can be beneficial.
Absolutely. So yeah, like every now and then challenge yourself. If you sleep on the other side of the bed, all of a sudden it's like, oh, we don't fit together quite the same way. We have to find a new way to spoon. Like this is so different. And you might find a different dynamic emerge, it's similar like when you are in a long-term partnership, you start having sex the same all the time, right? It's like a certain lead in similar, or a position that's your favorite. And it's a similar thing to choosing to sleep on a different side of the bed. You might try, if one partner usually initiates, you might deliberately experiment with having the other partner initiate.
Mm.
Or, if there's a default position you tend to go to as the couple, you might try a different position. It's all of that. And maybe it's a disaster, and that's okay, right?
Mhm.
Like that can be something fun you can laugh about. Like, oh my God, remember that time we tried sleeping on the opposite side of the bed and like the spooning just didn't work at all? That was hilarious. Like it doesn't have to mean something terrible. It just, you get to be in the space of discovery and freshness again.
Yeah, I love that. And so for people that are not in relationships, I think one thing you mentioned was running or walking in a different direction. Like if you typically walk your dogs a certain way, or if you typically run a certain way, just switching up that routine.
Absolutely. So yeah, for my single friends, you know, go to work a different way, take a different route. If you always stop at this coffee shop for your coffee, pick a coffee shop you've never been before and go into that one. You know, just at least once a week, challenge yourself to vary things a little bit. If you always work out in the morning, try working out in the evening one day just to see what it's like. Maybe you don't like it, but then you, at least you know, and you
Mm,
go back to the morning knowing, oh, that's my favorite time. It's not the default. The idea is to get out of the default.
I love it. I love it. All right. So the O.
The O stands for opt in. And
Mm,
what I mean by that, word, you've opted out of your life in a certain way. You've it's kind of abdicated responsibility, like, oh, world, entertain me. You know, it's a kind of entitled position, like,
mm,
oh, I'm bored, you know, because the world is not interesting enough to me. And it's like, the world's job is not to entertain you. Like,
mm,
your job is to entertain yourself and
mhm,
show up to the world in a way that's entertaining too. And
mhm,
so by opting in, it you put yourself back in the driver's seat. So there's an
mm,
aspect to boredom where you've kind of, you're sitting back in a certain way, what I call opting out.
mhm.
And so by choosing to opt in, you're saying, you know what? It's on me to create my life,
Yes.
you know? And if I'm not having the experience I want to be having, like if I'm bored, that's on me. Sometimes people say it even more harshly, and I'm just going to say it right now in the harsher way. If you're bored, it means you're boring.
Yeah.
So if you want to not be boring, it's on you to opt in and see, where could you engage, where
Mm,
could you show up more fully, where could you appreciate something that's happening that you're not paying attention to. It goes back to the G of gaining awareness.
mhm.
They're very linked, that kind of opting in and showing up.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I mean, I feel like people get stuck in that monotony and that routine, and it becomes a little boring. So really taking control, because we do create our reality. And
That's right.
like you said, if you're bored, you're boring. So how can you spice things up in your life? What can you opt into? So I love the word opt in, because obviously I build sales funnels. So we're always
Oh,
creating we're always creating something to where people can opt into people's email list, and you opt into things that excite you. You opt into programs and newsletters that you have interest in. So I love it. I love it.
yeah. So how about opting into yourself?
Yes. Yes.
Right? How about being excited about yourself? How
Yes.
about valuing yourself enough to
Mhm.
say, I'm going to show up for me
Mhm.
here?
Yeah. It's so funny because people just don't put forth the effort. Not to get off topic, but people don't put forth the effort. So I planned a birthday party for myself, like a birthday dinner, and I brought the decorations, and I decorated it. It was all glamorous and beautiful, and the waiter said to me, he said, "This is really beautiful. I don't think that I would have done all of this for myself." And I was just
Mm,
like, "Why?" You know?
yeah,
Why?
exactly.
Why
Why
not? Like, if you're going to do it for anyone, do it for yourself. So it's so interesting how people will do stuff for others to make others happy, but they won't do it for themselves.
not?
It's
Right.
it's so interesting. It's
And
so
then
interesting.
that actually even becomes something they hang their identity on. Like,
Mm,
I'm such a giver. And it's like, beautiful, great, be a giver. But what are you giving to yourself? Like,
yeah,
it starts at home. You
yeah,
can't give from an empty cup, you
yes.
know.
Oh,
So
yeah.
opting in a way, says, I'm going to fill my own cup. And
Mm-hmm.
then I get to give from the overflow of that. Like, how beautiful your example that you created this gorgeous birthday. Why? Because you matter.
Mm-hmm.
And the first person that demonstrates that to the universe is you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that example, because why not create something beautiful for yourself? Like, don't
Mm-hmm.
save your favorite china for the time somebody comes over. If you have a favorite cup or a favorite plate, use that every day for you. It's
Yes.
not
Ah, I
for
love
the company.
it.
You know, I'm with you on that. So
Yes. Yes, I love it. Love, love, love it. And okay, so I'll let you go to the next one.
W. So the W of glow stands for winning.
Winning.
So, and it's so funny because when we were talking yesterday, we discovered that both of us have circles of friends
Mm,
that that's a phrase we say. We're like winning,
yes.
but, you know, so when you're talking about going from bored to glowing or to glow, one way to look at winning is to notice the good. Like,
Mhm,
our brains are naturally wired to focus on what's not working, what's missing, what we don't have yet, what we wish were different. That's our survival wiring of our brain. But the behaviors that help us survive are not the same behaviors that help us actually thrive.
mm,
And what shifts from that survival, notice any place that may be unsafe and what's wrong and what's missing, which is a survival behavior, the thrival behavior, as I like to call it, or the shift in behavior is to actively practice turning your attention to what is working, to
mm,
what is already good in your life, to all the blessings that are happening. And even if you're in a terrible situation, like I was in chronic pain for many years and could barely walk.
mm,
And even in that, this is when I really developed this practice, because I had to. I was in so much pain and so miserable until the day I started to turn my attention and go, oh, I was able to take 5 steps today before it hurt, or so and so brought me a cup. So and so noticed I was hurting and went and got water for me so I didn't have to get up and get it myself. Isn't
mm,
that generous and beautiful? And I could be in the appreciation and the beauty and the gratitude of what was good in my life, even in the middle of the worst of times.
mm,
So that's what creates a certain glow, that kind of willingness to say, things are hard right now. And what is the strength to put your attention on instead? What is the quality or the strength that's being called out of me by this difficult circumstance? Where is the place where I'm winning, even when it's hard? We're not only winning when life is easy.
mhm,
It's the hardest times that actually have us grow the most and have to expand our capacity and really dig deep to find a win.
mhm.
So that's why I wanted winning to be the W, because I have all my clients, we start our calls with like, what is a win from the past week? No matter what they're going through, it's like,
Mhm,
where did you have a win? Because it's an active practice to turn your attention
mhm.
to that creates the glow of a fulfilled person.
Yes. Yes, I love it. And I always say gratitude is the key to fulfillment. So a lot of times when I have clients that are just kind of in that downward spiral and because it's like a rabbit hole. You find one thing wrong and then you find all these other things wrong and you just go down this rabbit hole. So I say, okay, stop. Gratitude check. What are 10 things you're grateful for? So it shifts their attention to what's going right and what's good and what they are fortunate to have in their life. So yeah, it's important. And I'm someone like, I'm a very visual person and I really just marvel in everything beautiful in life. So whether it's the sunset, whether it's the clouds, whether it's a flower, like the more you can find things that are beautiful and you appreciate, the more the law of attraction will kick in and send things to you to be grateful for and to enjoy. So it's not just about like the big wins, because I go out with my friends and we drink bottles of wine and champagne and all that kind of stuff, but I also make sure I pay attention to the little details in life that people probably overlook, you know? So it's important. It's important to focus your attention on the good.
I
Definitely.
agree. And I mean, that's the quickest way to get a glow.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so why did you want to become a life coach? Like, why is this important to you? Like the work that you do?
Well, I've been involved. Before I was a life coach, I was actually a massage therapist. And then I became a licensed acupuncturist. I have a master's in Chinese medicine.
Mm.
Then I actually left working with people for 10 years and focused on writing. I have an MFA in poetry as well, and I was a poet for 10 years. And I came back to working with people as a coach. I had been trained in coaching as well way back. And I came back to working with people because the moment that someone has that light bulb, that aha moment, that moment where a limitation that they thought they had suddenly falls away and they see the truth of who they are, that is my favorite moment. It just gives me so much pleasure and so much fulfillment to facilitate that for people, to help them see the places that they've been limiting themselves that are just not true. And I just get so much joy out of it. So that's kind of why I came back to coaching in 2014, was because I just wanted to be in there with people. And plus, it also feels like a really important moment on the planet. We're at a shift of consciousness. There's a shift of consciousness happening on the planet, and a critical mass of people who think in this creative, positive, evolutionary, transformative perspective. And the people who are holding on to the old way are holding on hard. It feels like a very crucial time. And so it also felt important to me to contribute to the shift in consciousness that's happening on the planet by both being a stand for it in my own life and facilitating that for as many people as I can.
I love that. I love that. So I want to shift focus just a little bit. So I know you said that you have men come to you. Like yesterday, we talked a little bit about relationships and men. So like, what is one of the biggest things that men come to you for?
Oh, that's such a great question. I just signed a client right before we started, so I'll tell you exactly.
Congratulations.
Um, so what men come to me for often is a sense of insecurity around the men who usually are attracted to work with me. Let's put it that way, because everybody has their sort of typical person they attract. The men who are typically attracted to work with me have a lot of emotional intelligence, actually have deep feeling, like reservoirs of feeling, and they can, they're often the one that their friends come to talk about stuff. And like and because the culture doesn't reflect that as a value for men, they
Mm.
often struggle with insecurity.
Mm.
Because culture says, oh, you need to be a man, you need to be strong and not have feelings and have it all together all the time. And so a lot of men hit this point where it's like, well, that's not me. And that's what I'm supposed to be. So something's wrong with me. And I'm here to say nothing is wrong with you. The fact that you're a feeling person in a world that's trying to make you a not feeling person is a gift. It's your strength. It's part of what makes you well-rounded and beautiful and an incredible partner to someone. And so the work I end up doing with them is for them to come into alignment with themselves and learn to trust their gifts, their emotional awareness, they're often artistic, the men that I see. So, their artistic gifts, their emotional gifts, and learn to find the power in that, as opposed to the kind of mimic of power that's taught by the culture, but is in fact kind of fragile and easily broken at the first sign of adversity.
Mm.
Those are the men that I typically see, and I help them come into alignment and find their true power, which is grounded in both being a feeling person and being a person of vision and direction and creativity and artistry.
I love it. So powerful. So powerful. And I think that we need more men like that because as we discussed yesterday, there's the book, what did you call it? The Game? He said it was
Oh
is it
yeah,
the game?
Neil Strauss he's written two major books. So the first book is The Game, and the second one is The Truth. And The Game, he was part of a thing called Pickup Artists, which was it's a whole system for picking up women. And it's typically men who are kind of insecure and don't have a lot of game. And so it teaches them skills and game so that they can get women into bed, but it's kind of a manipulative thing. And it's funny because later he wrote this book, The Truth, where he had his own internal revelation about that he wanted a long-term relationship and what he had to do to actually prepare himself for that. And that's a beautiful book to read, The Truth. So if you read The Game, make sure you also read The Truth. But so there are no shortcuts. So like someone can learn steps and tricks and tools to have game, but it doesn't mean you actually know how to have a relationship. And the quality of woman that's going to fall for that shit is not going to necessarily be the quality of woman you want to build your life with. So a lot of what we talked about yesterday was, as a woman, holding your own worth and recognizing that you have a certain standard in relationship because of what you know you bring. Not that you're like, oh, I'm a queen and you need to treat me like a queen. It's actually like, I know I have so much to give and I've done all this work and I'm an incredible person and I have so much to give this relationship that I want to meet a match for that. That they're out there, there is a vibrational match of a man who is ready to be at this level with me and who doesn't want to just manipulate and like get somebody into bed and throw them away and get the next one, who's not just into the game, but actually wants to build something beautiful that helps us both grow. I mean, I'm with a man like that. I know they exist. And you're the quality of woman who is a stand for that. So I wanted to celebrate you in that moment. You know, it can seem like all the men out there just want it easy or don't want to do the work. But I can tell you that the right man understands that the woman who's asking him to level up is inviting him into a greater version of himself. And he's going to damn well want that because he wants to be the greater version of himself. And he's going to be grateful for the woman who holds herself in such a way that it invites his possibility and his growth and his depth and his power out. That's the kind of relationships I want to facilitate and help have in the world.
Yes, it's so important. And that's why like that post, I think, resonated with so many people because these pickup artists, so to speak, their tactic is to break a woman down, you know, to break a woman down, make her feel less than. But I feel like a secure man, and not just man, a secure man or a secure woman is going to build up their partner. You want your partner to be the best version of themselves. And you want, because I mean, you deserve that. They deserve the best of you and you deserve the best of them. So both of you bringing the same thing to the table. And I think that society as a whole, like we're experiencing this lack of connection and we're experiencing this void, and the empty casual sex and like the shallow relationships, I believe is contributing to it. I think that there's a depth that is missing. And that's one of the important reasons of me creating this podcast, is just to spread that awareness that, you know, there's a whole nother level of love. There's a whole nother level of intimacy. There's a whole nother level of deepness that people, I think their souls are craving it, but they don't know how to put their finger on it, you know? And so, and they're masking it with alcohol and drugs and like all this like empty sex, but it's not fulfilling because it's lacking that connection, is lacking the deepness. So really just like holding yourself to a higher standard. Like for a man, do you want a woman who, if you buy her one drink, you can take her home and you guys haven't even had a conversation? Is that really fulfilling to you? But think about if you actually get to know a woman and you know what makes her tick and she knows what makes you tick, the level of fulfillment that intimacy will bring, you know?
Exactly. I
So
do. Yeah.
to me, I'm just like, why would you want this? I don't understand it. In order to live an abundant life, you have to adapt an abundant mindset. That requires reprogramming your beliefs to attract all the love, money, and success you can handle. Download this free Abundant as Fuck affirmation ebook with over 100 affirmations to get you started thinking positive, confident, and yummy thoughts. Download it for free at abundancehack.com/ebook to take action towards living your abundant life. I don't understand it, but
It's like the difference between eating cake and eating a gourmet meal. And until you recognize that you deserve to eat a gourmet meal, you might think that cake is awesome. And you're happy with cake. In this case, cake is like casual sex, which I've had plenty of and actually really enjoy in the right circumstance. I don't have judgment on casual sex. Yeah, I don't have judgment on casual sex, like, if it's what I feel like. But if I'm only eating cake because I think that cake is all I deserve, or cake is all there is out there, or cake is all that I'm willing to make an effort to get, I'm going to die of malnutrition. And the nutrition, you said it so beautifully, the nutrition that we are missing, that we are dying from a lack of, is connection. And deep, authentic connection is the gourmet meal that people are trying to access through the cake that they're grabbing at. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like people actually want to eat real food. They just don't necessarily, A, know that they deserve it, B, know how to get it, and C, want to put the effort, But they actually really do want connection. They just often don't know how to get that in a way that's truly nutritious.
Yeah. I've actually been single for a while, but I have standards, and a lot of people will say to me like, oh, you're high maintenance. And I'm just like, no, I'm not high maintenance. I know my worth. I know my value. And this is what I want. This is how I want to be treated. And most guys are just like, no, too much. I'll just go over here, hop on Bumble or Tinder, and I can get 5 more dates, but it's like, it's like the quality though. I guess like there's people who focus on numbers, quantity versus quality. And it's so interesting to me, but I think that it's men and women have to know their worth. And it's not saying like women are better and they don't have to bring anything to the table, because equally a woman should build a man up. A woman should be there and support the man, as well as the man being there and building the woman up. So it's what's that balance? The balance scale thing. It's a two-way street. Like you both have to contribute to make it work. And so many times I think that people put it off on the other person of like, well, they need to be better, they need to provide, they need to do this, rather than figuring out like, okay, like you, and I love what you said earlier, like raising your own vibration and then finding someone to meet it, or allowing them to find you. So when you raise your vibration, that person will find you. But I think that a lot of people are just not vibrating high right now. Like you said, eating cake, but still wanting the gourmet meal. But it's like, are you going to raise your vibrations to be a vibrational match to what you want?
That's it. And that's where the idea of glow comes in, because glow is another way to talk about the vibration that you are emanating, that you're putting out there. And if you are glowing with the fullness of your joy, with the fullness of your awareness of magic in your life, with gratitude, if you're glowing with gratitude, you attract that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're a lighthouse with that beam going out over the water. And so the ship, that's trying to find you can find you.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I think this is something that's important as women, is we forget that a lot of our power lies both in our receptivity, how we take in life, and also in our magnetism. So going out there and getting everything, that comes from the more masculine side of us.
Mm.
And the more feminine side of us is receptive, drawing, magnetizing, taking in.
Mm.
And so when we have an imbalance of one over the other, that's where things get a little off.
Mm.
And so as women, if we get too much into our own masculine and we're like, I got to go out there and do this and get that and make that happen, it can start to make us a little hard,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be a whole lot more effort than we actually have to put out.
Mm-hmm.
And conversely, if we are too much in our magnet and our receiving and our waiting and our receptivity, and we don't have any action, well, we can wait a long time,
Mm-hmm.
because we're not putting out any kind of signal that anybody, we're just sitting there in our house going, well, the right man will find me because I'm creating love. It's like, well, if you don't get out your house, like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So we need a balance of both, where we have enough directedness to get out of the house and have people see us, and enough awareness of staying in our receptivity and our magnetism and the magic of our real being, of who we really are,
Mm-hmm.
as abundance, as glow, as all these things we've been talking about. Then that's what brings the things we want to us, including the people.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so what are 3 tips that you have for living an abundant life or glowing?
Oh, yeah. So tip number one, I just gave it actually. So tip number one would be balance the part of you that's out there grinding and making stuff happen with the part of you that's, like you said, getting off of social media, having some time to be with yourself, feel what it is to receive, feel the air on your skin. Like, you can do this in a very sensual way. Balance walking down the street with sitting down and just feeling the sun or the air on your skin. So balance doing and being, or action and receptivity. So
Mm.
that would be tip number one. Put some attention there. Notice where you're out of balance and what you can do to come back into a better relationship with both sides of yourself.
Mm.
Tip number two, gratitude. Practice gratitude every day. That is one of the biggest glow generators we have. And tip number three, well, this is a fun one. You can do this with yourself and then also practice this with another. So this is on the sensual side. There's a big difference between when you touch someone and you're trying to turn them on, like you're touching and you're trying to be sexy.
Mm.
That usually does not feel good at all. That will make someone's skin crawl. They
Mm.
can feel that. And so if you want to actually be sexy, instead of trying to turn somebody on with your touch, put your attention in your own fingertips, in your own skin, and touch in a way that feels delicious to you.
Mm.
Keep your attention, instead of trying to put your attention on, like, oh, I need to do this to turn them on, and that's going to feel good because I've seen it in porn or whatever. Take your attention off of all of that, bring it back into your own fingers, and touch them in a way that your body goes, oh, that feels so good. Guaranteed, it's going to feel a lot better to the other person. So you can practice that with yourself, like touching your own arm, like you would imagine a Don Juan touching you kind of thing, like some guy that's got game, who's trying to turn you on. And then touching yourself and just feel your skin under your fingertips, press, hold, and just feel what feels good to the touching hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then notice what your
You
hand
broke up.
does. Does your body start to feel a little like, or does it feel like, ooh, I like that? Whoop. Do you start to feel more electric in the part that's being touched when
Mm.
you're touching with the only intention being for it to feel good to you?
Mm.
So that would be tip number 3.
Yeah, very interesting. So, do you think it's more of, I know it's a physical thing, but do you think it's also an energetic thing to where your focus is more on, because like I think maybe like that forcefulness of like, oh, I want to make this feel good for the other person, but if you energetically feel good, it'll energetically make them feel good.
That's exactly right.
I love
That's
it.
exactly right.
I love it.
And if you get your attention off trying to make them feel good and
Mm-hmm.
put your attention on what actually feels good in the moment, so you're out of your head.
Mm-hmm.
Usually when you're trying to touch someone in a way to turn them on, you're usually thinking too much about it. And when you put your attention on what actually feels good to your hand,
Mm-hmm.
that brings you back into your body, and then you're present. And
Mm.
so that's also what feels good to someone, is to be with someone who's present, who's simply present in their body.
Yeah.
That feels amazing,
Okay,
you
so I
know?
know I know this is a little bit off topic, but there I feel like there are some people that are only concerned about themselves though when it comes to intimacy. So is this something else that would take, like it's a fine line of balance of,
Yeah,
focusing on what feels good to you, but still being aware of what feels good to your partner.
absolutely. Yeah, that instruction is not for the people who only think about themselves.
Okay. We
And
have to
so
clarify.
you have to clarify that. This is not licensed to only think about yourself. Um, the idea is building connection.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have historically been too much about your own pleasure and not enough about the other person's pleasure, then your job is to, again, kind of like the G, gain awareness, up your noticing that when you touch someone, is that person opening and receiving your touch, or are they dimming down and shutting down? And
Mm-hmm.
are you perhaps doing something that's like automatic or rote to you because you know it works for you, but you're not actually tuning in to what the other person likes? And so for you, you're going to need to up your attention. You're not going to try to touch them in a way that turns them on either, but you're going to up your attention to how they're responding to your touch.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're shutting down, it's on you to ask, what would you like?
Mm-hmm.
How, would you like a different pressure? Is this location, do you want me to touch you somewhere else? I notice that. This is the most beautiful words in sex. I notice that, that you've shut down a bit. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Very often that will have the whole encounter like get amazing
Yeah.
because because the person feels seen,
Mm-hmm.
they feel felt, and the connection suddenly deepens. And if they have the guts to be honest, like, yeah, I didn't really like the way you were stroking my arm right there. It kind of felt like too much. If they're willing to be honest, which, hello women, we need to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So when if a male or female partner ever asks you, what happened right there? I feel like you shut down. Don't lie and say, no, it's fine. I didn't shut down. Do not do that,
Mm-hmm.
because then they don't trust their feeling anymore and you don't get to have the sex you want.
Yeah.
So be honest and be curious. And that's how you have much better intimacy.
Yeah, I think that it's really important. I like that you said ask as well. And ladies, you do have to be honest because that's the only way you're going to achieve, you know, what you want, is if you be honest about it. So I think that it is important for partners to ask, because a lot of times
Yep.
we know what our partners like and we know what our partners want. And I know getting on the topic of intimacy is kind of, you know, uncomfortable for some people, but I do believe how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you're
Exactly.
someone whose love life and intimacy level is like dead, think about how that is affecting the other areas of your life. Think about how it's affecting your business. Think about how it's affecting, you know, your relationships. Because when you are like the original concept of the post, when you're being loved right, you
Yeah.
have this energy that affects every area in your life. So why allow something that's so beautiful and so powerful to be dull, you know?
Exactly. And that's so beautifully said. And I want to just say, like, right is different for every person.
Mhm.
So, that glow that happens when you feel loved right, nobody out there is a mind reader.
Mhm.
There's no one way to be loved. And so it's on each of us to figure out, what does being loved right feel like to me? What is my version of that? And then how do I teach the people in my life to love me that way? And
Mhm.
number one way you teach people to love you that way is to love yourself that way first,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then again, we come back to, then you hold a certain vibration, then you invite people into that vibration, and there's a match.
Yes.
So, I love that you pointed that us back to that original post, because being loved right, I think that's a place that we also get stuck as a culture, is we think there's one right way, and if we're not doing it that way, that we're wrong. And I'm just here to say that's just not true.
Mhm.
But the issue is that most of us don't know, because we haven't investigated
Mhm.
what being loved right is for us.
Mhm.
So that's really step one of
And
awareness.
yeah, and people deny it too, or they feel bad about their desires because it doesn't seem normal. So like really just owning, like, one, checking in, like figuring out like, what do I like? You know, what raises my vibrations? What feels good when I do this thing, or if I'm around a certain person, like figuring out what you want and not feeling bad about it. And if it comes to intimacy, still not feeling bad about it, because there are a lot of women who are very shy about what they want. But again, it's something that I do feel like affects every area in our lives. And when we can own our desires and own what we want and own who we are, it's so powerful and so liberating.
Exactly.
Yeah. All
Beautifully
right.
said.
I feel like I can talk to you all day.
Me too. I just love talking to you.
So we'll have to do a round two of this, because this has been amazing. So where can people find you online?
They can find me at memali.com, which is spelled like my name, M-E, and then M-A-L-I, like the country in Africa,
Mm.
.com. And when you go to memali.com, I have a free gift there of what I call the LEAP formula, which is a 4-step formula for showing up as your best self. So when you scroll down the homepage, you can find the LEAP formula. Go grab that, start implementing it in your life. It's a 4-step formula that just helps you show up as the person you want to be. And you can also, on my homepage, schedule a consultation, a free clarity session, to see if you're interested in working together. I have individual coaching packages as well as a group program, and I'd love to talk to you.
Awesome. Sounds good. And I will have that in the show notes, so you can definitely reach out to her. Thank you so much for coming on. This has been awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. It was such a pleasure. I just love talking to you. I love your energy.
Likewise. Thank you. All right, guys. Until next time, love and light. Thank you for listening to the Abundance Hack Podcast. Don't forget to leave comments and questions. Remember, every time you subscribe or leave a 5-star rating, I do my happy dance.